Hey people of the VC, it's Andy Cloudy Mulder with a new episode of Ripping Metal. This is when I grab 5 albums out of the collection that I've not listened to in quite a while, just to re-familiarise myself with them. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I bought, certainly over the last few years, there's a lot of stuff I bought that I probably haven't given enough spins to or really fully appreciated what I've got. So this gives me the chance to go in, have a listen to some of the older stuff rather than just stuff out of the inbox. I usually make a digital copy of it so I can have it whenever I want to listen to it on my lossless music player. So I'm not just restricted to listening, because obviously records I can only listen to in this room, and I've got lots and there's not enough track lists, blah blah blah. I've said this before. So let me show you what I've pulled out this time. So you can tell from the thumbnail that I've been listening to a little bit of David Lee Roth and Skyscraper from 1988. This is a Warner Brothers UK pressing. This is actually one of my original 80s collection. Out of all the records I've got, there are about 60 to 70 pieces that I had as a teenager, and this was one of them. But it's not an album that I have ever held in high regard, and I haven't listened to this in eons. In fact, when I pulled this out, it was still in the original sleeve. And every time I've pulled out albums, or whenever I buy new albums, I always swap out the inner sleeve for a fresh new one. As I always say, if you slept in the same bed with the same sheets for 30 years, you'd appreciate a change as well. But this one was still in the original inner sleeve, so clearly I've not listened to this in a very, very long time. As I say, it's not one I've ever held in high regard. I loved the previous album, Eat 'Em and Smile. Absolutely brilliant. I remember being disappointed when I picked this up because it wasn't Eat 'Em and Smile Part 2. But I did have fun listening to it again, and got a bit of a buzz revisiting this one. Although it did kind of reaffirm some of my thoughts that I had with it. Yeah, so there are a few clunkers on here, I think, but it also reminded me there are some great tracks as well. Knucklebones, Just Like Paradise, and Hot Dog and a Shake, perfect time as well. So 4 songs out of 10, I think, are pretty good standout songs. It's not really, well, it's not metal. To me, it's not really hard rock either. It's David Lee Roth, and he's pretty unique. Always hated the cover as well. So this album didn't really, it just didn't really do anything for me back then. But I'm glad I went back in and I had a good listen to it, and I'll probably play it again more readily. Black vinyl, typical UK, late 80s, very thin as well. Next up, so Mithra is a new wave of British heavy metal band that never really did anything. In a recent update, I think it was in my August update, I showed a High Roller Records reissue of Death and Destiny, which was the 40th anniversary of their 1979 EP that they released, which was all they released back then. But this is Mithra in 2017. This is after they reformed, and they got a deal with High Roller Records, which I think is pretty impressive. Obviously, High Roller had released some of the earlier stuff, and you know, they've managed to get themselves a deal for at least this one album, and this is Still Burning, and it gets the full High Roller Records treatment, although not full. There's no poster on here, but it is really well done. Now, this was the lineup that recorded the band. Vince High is the original vocalist, although he has since left the band. Alex Perry and John Roach on guitars. Now, back in the early days, I don't think those two were in the band at the same time, but they're in there together now, but they are kind of both original members from early on. Morris Bates, I think, as well, may be an original member. I don't recall that one, but Phil Davis, the drummer, is new to the band. So yeah, this is an old school 80s, well, late 70s, 80s metal band doing traditional heavy metal 30 years later. And I think a lot of these older bands 30 years on do it better than some of the younger bands trying to emulate some of the older bands. Maybe it's just they've got that old school mentality about them. But this is a good, solid album. Vince High's vocals are much kind of deeper and stronger, but then you'd expect them to have changed over the 30 years since they were originally together. Standout tracks on here for me will be Silence in the Sirens, A Call to War. That's a great song. That really gets the album going as well. And Fundamental Extreme, the last song on the album. Those are the top three picks for me. As you can see, this one is signed. I picked this one up when they supported Night Demon. I mentioned this before, and it was Night Demon's first ever gig in the UK, and they brought Mithra along with them. Mithra were a band they stated as an influence, so they were, I think, partly, I don't know if they were instrumental in getting them back together, but they certainly helped get them touring. Nice inner sleeve and lyric sheet, usual good high roller records standards. And when I was actually picking out the guts of this, I noticed that I stuck the set list from that night in there as well. So I didn't realize I had that at all. So that was kind of nice to revisit and to grab that. I say this is only from, 3 years ago, and or in fact, it was 2018, I think I saw Night Demon first. So even in that short time, I'm having to revisit some records I've probably not played much. But this one came on a beer coloured vinyl. But really worth checking out. So Mithra, good new wave of British heavy metal done properly. Now, another band that is kind of similar sound to new British heavy metal, but they're a Spanish band. That's Baron Rojo, Volume and Brutal from 1982. This is their second album. It was recorded in London, actually, and there are both Spanish and English versions available of this album. This is the English language version, being a UK press. They kind of sound like Scorpions meets that classic British new wave of British heavy metal sound. Obviously, the singer is Spanish and he's singing in English, so there is that accent to the voice. It doesn't sound like a new wave British heavy metal band would do, but they're not a new wave British heavy metal band, so they're really not trying to be it. But every song on here is a winner. With the exception of, I can't remember the name of it. There's one of them, the one that Mel Collins is on, sax. No place for sax in heavy metal. I'm sorry. If you disagree with that, then now's your time to dislike the video and subscribe and all that jazz. But this is an absolutely superb album. Let's say Isolation Ward, Termites, Flowers of Evil. Good stuff. Nice live shot there from the marquee as well. No Frills released from 82. This is on what? Camouflage, plain black vinyl. Nothing fancy, but a great album to go back and revisit. I only picked that one up a year or two ago as well, and I've just forgotten how good it was. So really loving this series and just going back and reacquainting myself with some of these albums. Next up, we're going away from classic metal and dipping into my stoner collection. This is an album from 2016 by Black Wizard, and it's called New Waste. It's on Listenable Records, and it's a French pressing. Style is kind of doom, stoner, rock and roll, metal, really. It's doomy at times, but it's not at all doom and gloom, doomy, depressing. Maiden-esque stoner riffs. These guys are from British Columbia in Vancouver. Laughing and Lost, probably my favourite track on here, or one of them anyway. This one, I like this one because it's kind of it's slower and bluesy as well. I think it may have been suited a little bit better on the album because you could build up to it and then have a slow piece over here and then go on. But I still love the track. It's a really, really good track. I just think it should have been later in the album. The Priest is the most sort of heavy metal song on here. But as I say, this whole, it's not a metal album. So if you're looking for a metal album, this isn't really for you. But if you like a bit of that stoner mix built in, something a little bit doomy, but also upbeat and rock and metal, it's well worth a shot. Final Ripper as well, also great track. So yeah, Black Wizard, New Waste. This came on a very orange vinyl. And some shots of the band there on the nice heavy stock 4-piece and lyrics. Moving from stoner to more kind of guitar wankery. Got some Tony McAlpine, Edge of Insanity. Instrumentals, love them or hate them. I'm not the biggest fan of instrumentals, and a whole album of them is a bit much, I think, and this album is no exception. I listen to it so infrequently. I enjoy it when I do, but I don't know. I don't know really which of these tracks I would point you at, with the exception of The Taker on side 2. That one actually pricked my ears up and made me grab the album cover to wonder what the song was called. So The Taker is one that I would say check out from here. But we have Tone on the back. Very, very talented guitarist, no doubt. But as I say, it's just a little bit too much instrumental after instrumental for me, really. Lyric sheet. Rojo Records, plain black vinyl. So there we have it. Nice and short for this one. 5 records I have revisited and made them much more accessible by ripping them to my as a lossless FLAC files to my media player, so I can listen to them a little bit more readily when I'm out and about. Let me know what you think of any of these. If you disagree with any of my opinions, feel free to share your opinions in the comments below. That's exactly why I do this, and why a lot of us do this, really, is the interaction that I get out of it, and that's the fun. Usually post these in the evening, wake up in the morning, and there's some good comments to read and catch up on, and see what everyone else has posted. I'm rambling now, so I will say thank you very much for watching. I'll be back again with another video pretty soon. Take care. Cheers.